Number 10. Snake on the beach. Beachgoers were pretty shocked when they were nearly attacked by a rattlesnake in Florida. It appeared out of nowhere in the surf and then proceeded to slither along the sand of the beach. Snakes don't really belong on the beach. They should be in the Everglades or literally anywhere else, with the exception of our houses, of course. It looks as though it had come in on a wave, and the crowd gathered to watch as the poor snake fought the tide to get back onto the shore. Even though the witnesses felt bad for the struggling snake, nobody was really dumb enough to try to help it. After all, this was a diamondback rattlesnake, extremely venomous and potentially lethal. Nobody knows why a rattlesnake ended up on the beach or how exactly it got into the water, but an animal control officer did eventually show up to save the beachgoers from the deadly serpent. According to witnesses, the animal control officer grabbed the snake by the head and simply dropped it into a carrier. The snake didn't even try to fight back. It must have been exhausted after all that swimming. Number 9. Banana frog. A frog recently made a pretty incredible journey, traveling 5,000 miles or 8,046 kilometers from Colombia to South Wales, hiding inside of a bunch of bananas. The exotic frog was discovered by supermarket staff as they were putting away the produce. The frog most likely survived its arduous journey inside of a cooler because it slowed down its metabolism and went into a kind of hibernation. Back in Colombia, the frog had probably been relaxing in the bunch of bananas, minding its own business, when they were picked by farmers, stuffed into a crate, and then shipped across the world. After the frog's bizarre journey, it was transferred to a specialist animal center to be properly cared for. Staff at the center claimed that the frog was probably a type of banana tree frog, though they did admit it was difficult to identify its species. After all, there are thousands of different frogs in the jungles of Colombia where the bananas were harvested. I guess it's just lucky that the staff at the supermarket found the frog before an unwitting family took the bananas home and ended up with an unexpected pet. Number 8. The cat in the wall. The last place anyone expects to find a cat is inside a wall. And yet, that's exactly what happened when Molly the cat got lost during her owner's move out of their house. When they were moving, they couldn't find the cat anywhere. They searched, and they even returned to the empty home and left out food, only to check in later to see that the food had not been eaten. Then the new owners of the house left out food and milk, hoping to lure the lost feline out of hiding. It would be 3 weeks since the cat had gone missing. Finally, the new owners of the house heard meowing coming from a wall near the kitchen. It turned out that the cat had somehow magically gotten stuck inside of a cavity in the wall. There seemed to be no way of rescuing the Houdini cat. So the new owners called the Derbyshire Fire and Rescue, and they came and tore up the floorboards, allowing them just enough space to lure the cat out of the cavity and save Molly's life. She was terribly skinny after all the time she spent stuck in the wall, but quickly fattened back up with all of her favorite kitty foods. Since the traumatic incident, Molly has been returned to her original guardians and is safe and sound. Number 7. Badger in a castle. An extremely angry badger recently caused a Scottish castle to close down after becoming a menace to the public. The cellar at Cregnathan Castle in England had to be closed after the badger apparently became lost and took up shelter in the ancient residence. The badger actually caused quite a bit of a mess and stir as it was trying to dig its way out of the castle and ripping up the ancient stones. Luckily, the badger never attacked any of the guests, but it was still a safer call to just shut the whole place down. Staff had to lure the animal out of the underground cellar using cat food and honey. The castle itself was built in the 16th century. Even after the uninvited visitor vacated the premises and went back into the forest, the underground part of the castle had to remain closed because of the damage done to the stone masonry. The badger had been trying to tunnel its way out of the castle like some kind of medieval prisoner. Why do you think they didn't just call in animal services to get the badger out? Save the ancient floor, right? What would you do? Let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 6. Koala in the Christmas tree. An Australian family got an unexpected Christmas gift when they discovered a furry ornament living inside of their tree. It was a live koala. Merry Christmas! The adorable little animal had somehow gotten tangled in the lights and plastic branches of their Christmas tree, and the family arrived home to see a living, breathing koala just kind of lounging on some garland on the tree in their living room. According to USA Today, the koala probably crawled in through the front door when no one was looking, explored the house for a few hours while the family was gone, then decided to take up residence inside of their Christmas tree. After all, it's not like the koala knows the difference between a real tree and a fake tree. It just saw a tree and decided to climb. Or maybe it liked all the pretty lights. Naturally, the family called their local koala rescue, but the rescue center actually thought it was a prank call at first. It took some convincing, but they did eventually come out and get the koala bear. The sad part behind this otherwise adorable story is that after the brutal wildfires in Australia, koala bears have become virtually extinct, with estimates saying there are less than 43,000 of them still alive, and that they are currently trending towards extinction because of habitat loss, driving them into people's homes and up into their Christmas trees. Save the koalas! Number 5. Pig Beach. In the Bahamas, there's an island called Big Major Cay. It's small, uninhabited by people, and home to an unusual group of feral pigs. These pigs seem to be concentrated at a place locally known as Pig Beach. Sounds like a blast. International guests who stay at the luxurious Foul Cay Resort have been feeding these beach pigs for so long that they've become part of the landscape. The pigs are so brave and so used to humans that they will even swim from the beach out into the sea to try to steal food from your boat. In fact, the pigs have been known to jump into people's boats and steal their lunches. As weird as it is to hear, the entire island in the Bahamas is controlled by pigs. They own the island, they do things on their own terms, and in the cooler parts of the day, they populate the entire beach area. Nobody knows exactly how many pigs are on the island or how they even got there. Some claim the pigs survived a shipwreck, and because the island was uninhabited and there were no predators, they just kind of flourished. Now that there are so many tourists visiting the local resorts, the pigs have found themselves with an endless supply of food. The only downside of having so many pigs near a Caribbean resort is that there have been some reports that have suggested tourists have killed pigs by giving them fatal doses of alcohol. Number 4. Giant lizard in a 7-Eleven. In Thailand, 7-Eleven is everywhere. 7-Eleven can be found on every corner in just about every district of the country. And apparently, so too can giant lizard monsters. Shoppers got a bit more than they bargained for when a giant monitor lizard broke into the store and began crawling up the shelves, knocking down bags of chips and other produce onto the floor and causing general mayhem. The lizard was absolutely massive, and yes, there are a lot of them in Thailand. Usually they tend to live near ponds and canals in humid climates. They can also be found in the sewers of Bangkok and apparently in the 7-Elevens of small towns in rural provinces. According to the report from NBC News, these lizards can reach about 6 feet or 1.8 meters in length, making them the second biggest lizards in the world next to the Komodo dragon. The lizard that invaded the small convenience store seemed to be at peak physical size. It was a beast. The thing managed to get onto a rack of food near the ceiling where it stopped its reign of terror and took a break. Employees of the store phoned the police and they brought the reptile handlers to the scene to chase the giant animal away. Number 3. Rabbit in the couch. A woman in Melbourne thought that her beloved pet rabbit had gone to the great beyond after it went missing for over 3 weeks. The rabbit's name was Sharon, and she disappeared from the backyard, causing great mental distress for her owners. They thought she had gotten out and escaped, and was probably taken and eaten by some kind of large, hungry bird. 3 weeks after Sharon had gone missing, when the owners were just about ready to stop grieving, she was discovered inside the couch. Sharon was found when her owners had a guest spend the night. The guest pulled out the couch to sleep on it, and there was Sharon, literally stuck inside the couch. She had been there for 3 weeks and didn't at all seem stressed out about it. The rabbit was a bit skinny, but otherwise perfectly fine. In fact, when she was found, Sharon was happily munching away on the interior of the couch. She had been eating feathers and couch fibers for 22 days. She is now back to the yard and eating more suitable food. Number 2. The Tiger of Harlem. A man in Harlem kept a 425-pound, that's 193 kilogram, tiger in his apartment. If this seems like a bad place to keep a tiger, that's because it is. The tiger keeper was a man named Antoine Yates, also known as New York City's Tiger Man. It was back in 2001 when Yates brought a tiger cub home with him to his Big Apple apartment, with the young big cat being only 8 weeks old. Naturally, the tiger grew, and all the while, Yates just kept it inside of his tiny living quarters where he lived in a Harlem housing project. And this guy wasn't a doctor or a veterinarian, he was a construction worker. He really had no business even having a tiger. And no one even discovered what was going on until 2003, at which point they were forced to take action. But when the authorities tried to remove the enormous cat from Yates' apartment, they also discovered a huge alligator being kept there too. This guy had a whole menagerie inside of his tiny apartment. Both the animals were transferred to a sanctuary in Ohio, where the tiger died from natural causes in 2019. As for Yates, he spent a bit of time in jail for illegally keeping exotic animals in his apartment. He enjoyed a brief 15 minutes of fame, saying in a report, "Consciously, I knew I had a tiger, but the physical interaction and bonding, it was so natural. It was no different than raising a monkey or a snake." Yates claimed his ultimate goal was to build an animal sanctuary that would serve as a new concept of animals living together. Way to dream big. How he never got eaten by one of his pets is simply boggling. Either one of the animals was perfectly capable of devouring him. Number 1. The Cave of Snakes. There is a terrifying place in Mexico where snakes literally hang from the ceiling. If the thought of dozens, even hundreds of hungry snakes dangling above your head in the dark terrifies you, you're not the only one. You probably never want to visit what is known as the Cave of Hanging Snakes. It's located near the small village of Cantemo in a remote part of the Yucatan Peninsula. The snakes who reside in the cave have evolved to live high up on the cavern walls and inside the crevices of the ceiling, where they then hang down at night to catch flying bats right out of the air. It's arguably the most horrific place on Earth, not exactly the kind of location you'd pick for a weekend excursion. In fact, some people have called this the creepiest cave in the world, as there's even a flooded part deep within that houses blind albino crustaceans freaky enough to make you run out of the cave screaming, with yellow-red rat snakes snapping at your hair. Thanks for watching. What's the most unusual place you've ever found an animal? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back soon for more awesome videos. See you next time. Bye-bye.